last resort. And there's no way but up for this Filipino group. SB19 reaches another milestone with its latest single making an impressive debut on a Billboard chart. From about 21,000 cases a day at the height of the COVID-19 surge, the health department says the country is now logging an average of less than 3,000 infections daily. Although hospital beds remain occupied in other areas, a number of regions are seeing improvements, including Metro Manila. Health officials say this is why they approved a further downgrade of the alert level in the country's capital. So what do we know about alert level 2? From a 30% indoor and 50% outdoor capacity under alert level 3, establishments will now be allowed to operate at 50% indoor and 70% outdoor capacity. Indoor activities will also be allowed for those below 18 years of age, even if unvaccinated. These include dine-in services, religious gatherings, limited face-to-face classes, gyms, salons, bars, karaoke places, cinemas, concert halls, and theaters.
Pinapayagan na po lumabas ang mga bata sa Metro Manila under Alert Level 2. Pwede na ang intrazonal at interzonal movement.
Ang mga bata po kasi, they are the least vulnerable, no? So, katulad nung sa face-to-face classes, katulad po nung pagpunta sa establishmento, as long as we do the safety protocols, mothers will protect them, they are vaccinated yung mga magulang, yun pong pagbabakuna sa mga bata, hindi po natin kailangang gawing hadlang para makapagbukas tayo ng ibang industriya.
Meanwhile, still prohibited are casinos, horse racing, and cockfighting, and the operation of cockpits, lottery, and betting shops, and other gaming establishments. But as restrictions ease in Metro Manila, health officials have a warning and a reminder. Our Caroline Bonkin tells us more.
This restaurant in Quezon City is accepting 22 customers beginning Friday. And even if they're now serving more people, store supervisor Joey Galvez says they're keeping the same protocols in place to avoid coronavirus transmission.
Lahat po ng ginamit ng customer, nag-disinfect po kami. Mga lamesa, upuan. Kapag grupo sila, hindi namin kapayagan dikit-dikit sila eh. Sa amin po sa customer namin, lahat po dito, ina-accept po namin lahat po, nakavaccinated po lahat.
Restaurants are among establishments that were allowed to accept more people after the health department gave the IATF the go signal to place Metro Manila under alert level 2. Among those being considered when escalating or de-escalating an alert level are hospital bed availability, case trend, and virus attack rate. And as health officials see it, the numbers say it's safe to ease the movement of people and increase business capacity in Metro Manila. Attack rate refers to the number of people per 100,000 population getting infected daily. It should be below 7. Now Metro Manila is around 5. Healthcare use is less than 50%, and on an average, only 493 cases are recorded daily from a peak of 5,000 in September.
Nakakitaan na po tayo ng mababa ang transmission ng COVID-19 at patuloy po itong bumababa. Ang NCR po may negative 2-week growth rate, but this is not artificial anymore.
As more people and activities are allowed, the health department comes with a warning. Cases could still rise. To avoid that, there will be granular lockdowns if needed. Capacities of restaurants and other venues are still limited, and health protocols remain in place. But ultimately, health officials say it's up to the public to keep what we have achieved against COVID-19.
The safeguards are there. Ang kailangan lang talaga ma-remind natin ng ating mga kababayan na tayo po, yung behavior natin ay malaking factor dito sa kung tataas pa ang mga kaso. So it will depend on all of us. If we can sustain this kind of number of cases, we can be able to open up more of our industries.
Health officials are still meeting with experts to determine whether or not to do away with face shields. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
While it is asking the Interagency Task Force for another week to study the benefits, the Health Department favors easing rules on the use of face shields in enclosed spaces, including cinemas, as long as other health standards are strictly followed. The agency also eyeing the full or nationwide implementation of the alert level system by December 1. The DOH says the scheme has been effective for Metro Manila. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made the announcement on the region's new alert status just less than 3 hours before alert level 2 would take effect, but he sees no problem with it.
Alam niyo po, mahirap kasi kung magtataas ng alert level. Kasi lilimitahan natin yung magtatrabaho. Pero siguro naman kung reverse, gaya nito, na pagbaba, wala pong mawawala, no? Kahit mabilisan yung announcement na ginawa ng IATF dahil ito po yung maputing balita at ito po yung pinaka-aantay-antay na balita ng marami sa atin, no? Na para magkaroon muli ng hanap buhay ang ating mga kababayan.
Also by December 1st, alert levels will be determined every 15th and 30th of the month. However, this excludes escalations, which may be done at any time in the middle of the implementation period if needed. Now, areas under alert level 2, including Metro Manila, have been given the green light by the Interagency Task Force to hold limited face-to-face classes in college. Up to 50% capacity for all degree programs are allowed. But schools have to meet the following conditions. Students and faculty are inoculated and vaccination rates must be high. The local government has given approval and facilities are retrofitted and inspected. Commission on Higher Education Chairperson Prospero de Vera tells CNN Philippines detailed guidelines will be issued next week. He also highlighted the importance of health insurance for class participants.
Ang required sa guidelines ay kailangan sisiguruhin yung eskwelahan na registered sa PhilHealth lahat ng estudyante nila para meron tayong safety net, no? Depende sa eskwelahan, may mga ibang eskwelahan, lalo na private schools, na kumuha ng sarili nilang additional healthcare coverage. But we leave that to the school. So the minimum is really PhilHealth membership.
While more sectors are opening up due to the downtrend in cases, a nationwide study finds this is also because of the increased confidence in COVID-19 vaccines. A recent social weather station survey reveals more than half, or 64%, of Filipino adults are now willing to get vaccinated. Among them, 25% have been fully inoculated and 10% have yet to receive their second dose. 23% and still have doubts about getting the COVID-19 vaccine. But according to the SWS, this is a 5-point decrease from 24% in June. For 18% not willing to be immunized at all. The SWS notes the number of adults willing to get vaccinated soared by at least 9 points from 55% in June. It also doubled from 32% in May when the survey was first conducted. The latest study was done among 1,500 respondents nationwide through face-to-face interviews. Should COVID-19 vaccination be mandatory? The health department confirms this is already on the table. Health officials say hesitancy and misinformation about the vaccines hinder the inoculation drive in some sectors. The vaccination of the majority of the population is needed to achieve herd immunity. Officials admit this is not an easy process, as the Justice Department already advised them that a law for mandatory vaccination is needed.
Nung pinag-usapan po iyan, we have seen, no, tinignan na natin yung spectrum ng mga ginawa na natin for regulations. Nauna na tayo dun sa encouragement, dun sa nudges, nagbibigay tayo ng mga impormasyon. Ngunit pagkatapos no, nakita natin may some hesitancy pa rin. So nagbigay tayo ng mga paraffol, nagbibigay ho yung ibang LGUs ng mga packs, no, food packs para dun sa magpapabakuna. But then again, we still saw na meron pa ring hesitancy, no? So nagbahay-bahay po tayo. Ini-incentivize na natin ngayon ang mga fully vaccinated. They have that privilege to go into these 3 C's areas. Pero ang gobyerno, mas gusto pa rin nating i-push forward para mas bumilis at dumami at ma-achieve natin yung proteksyon ng populasyon na kailangan natin.
Vergeres also says all government agencies and the private sector are planning to stage 3 days of amplified nationwide vaccination drive. The initial target is to administer 5 million shots per day. Vergeres says vaccination sites will be set up in public areas with high foot traffic and perks will be offered. Just yesterday, the government says close to 1,120,000 COVID-19 shots were administered. This is the highest number of vaccines administered in a day since the vaccination rollout began in March. Coming up on Newsnight, latest numbers show prices of basic goods rose slower last month, but retailers and consumers are still feeling the pinch. And the government no longer allows some health workers to work abroad for now. Details when we return.
Sa mga Pilipino na nahihirapan sa mga transaksyon dahil wala o kulang ang mga valid IDs.
Huwag nang mag-alala dahil narito na po ang PhilSys, ang identification system ng bawat Pilipino.
Para sa Step 1 registration, pumunta lang sa register.philsys.gov.ph para makapag-register sa PhilSys online. Ito ang PhilSys, ID natin to. Number 1 ba talaga ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy?
The best!
No more questions, Your Honor.
Walang duda! Pinaka-tender, pinaka-juicy, at pinaka-masarap. Kaya number 1. Pa-order pa ito, Court!
Walang duda! Kids can tell, number 1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy.
I'll be teaching you how to make a salty dog, which is typically a vodka-based cocktail, but as a gin lover, we're changing it up to make it even better. For this, you'll need, for the tools, grab your lemon wedge and apply it on the mouth of your glass. Grab your salt and dip in the mouth of your glass to create an even layer. Grab your cocktail shaker and pour your grapefruit juice, your lime juice, and your simple syrup. Lastly, our GSM Premium Gin. We're going to fill our shaker with ice. Now, shake. Get your glass and carefully add in some ice. Pour our cocktail. Then a grapefruit wedge. And here it is, your salty dog made with GSM Premium Gin.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. In headlines overseas, the World Health Organization warns Europe is again becoming a COVID-19 epicenter. The agency says the continent is facing a potentially devastating winter that could see 500,000 people dead from COVID-19. Europe logged a 6% increase in cases the previous week, the highest for any global region, as others record declines or stable trends. The United Kingdom has also seen a surge in infections as it resists stricter measures like wearing masks, but its fight against the virus gets a boost with a game-changing drug. The UK is the first in the world to authorize antiviral capsule molnupiravir for adults with mild to moderate COVID that are at risk for severe illness. Drug maker Merck announced last month the capsule reduces risk of hospitalization or death from the virus by half. Now, back here at home, the Senate orders the arrest of a resigned budget official linked to alleged anomalous purchases of COVID-19 medical supplies. The order was signed by Senate President Tito Soto and Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Rich Gordon. It states former Procurement Service Head Lloyd Christopher Lau obstructed inquiries into the government supply deals with Pharmaly Pharmaceutical because he was a no-show in the past 4 hearings. Gordon points out Lau is now a private citizen and is no longer covered by President Duterte's directive to ban cabinet and executive officials from the hearings. Lau is the 5th person ordered arrested by the Senate following Pharmaly Director Lincoln Ong, executives Mohit and Twinkle Dargani, and the firm's alleged financier, former presidential advisor Michael Yang. Food prices increased at a slower pace in October, dragging last month's inflation rate to 4.6%. While the numbers are getting better, is it really felt down the chain? Our Rex Media tells us more.
Basic commodity prices are still going up, but at a slower pace. inflation is at 4.6% in October. That's slower than September's 4.8%, but faster than the 2.5% in October last year. While the increase in rice prices remains low and stable, inflation further slowed when it comes to vegetable, fish, and meat. Government-mandated importing of more pork led to the easing of prices after months of high farm gate cost due to the African swine fever. While the numbers are getting better, those on the ground say they do not feel it at all. Among them, Pinky and Dante, who sell pork in a wet market in Mandaluyong City.
Umunti daw po yung supply ng baboy, kaya tumaas po.
Pataas nga, 2 beses tumaas sa bawat linggo.
Some consumers like Marley and Jong are also feeling the pinch. They say they have no idea why.
Sa ngayon, syempre, mas tumataas yung mga bilihin ngayon. Kasi everyday, namimili kasi ako dahil meron akong business na food business. So sa lahat ng mga market na mga napupuntahan ko talaga, halos mga nagtataas talaga yung mga paninda.
Sobrang hirap kasi, di ba, pandemic.
One factor could be higher transport inflation due to the series of oil price hikes.
Siguro sa transport ng nagdi-deliver, mahal daw gasolina eh. Kaya tinapatong nila doon yung charge nun sa gasolina, sir.
An economist believes the lower inflation last month is due to the so-called base effect. This means the lower number last year can result in a higher percentage change.
It's kind of surprising because it's slower than what the markets estimated. Though it's elevated pa rin naman if you look at it very well.
RCBC Chief Economist Michael Ricafort suggests the government should focus now on creation of jobs as the economy reopens to help consumers have more income and cope with rising prices.
It's really ensuring now the further reopening of the economy and policies that would also promote and generate more jobs, more livelihood.
The Bangko Sentral is seeing commodity prices to further stabilize in the coming months until mid-next year to a 3% inflation rate, which is well within its 2 to 4% target. Rex Remitio, CNN Philippines.
The country hits the red light on the overseas deployment of nurses after it reached the 6,500 limit last month. The POEA announces the processing and issuance of overseas employment certificates, or OECs, as well as the deployment of new nurses and nursing assistants are suspended effective immediately. But health workers who have OECs can still leave for their employment abroad. In June, the government raised the cap from 5,000 to 6,500. It imposed the limit late last year due to the national demand for medical workers amid the pandemic. Now, the Armed Forces is pushing for a credible defense posture as it continues to modernize programs and assets. In my one-on-4 interview with the Armed Forces Chief and the 3 major service commanders, General Jose Faustino Jr. gave a clearer picture of the military's goals.
For us is to have a credible defense. Modernization is budget heavy. So it needs a lot of money, of course. And right now, we encountered some problems because of the pandemic, and some of our resources were, used for the COVID-19 pandemic. And but slowly we are reaching there. You say, how credible is our credible defense? Well, if you look at the list of programs and the projects that we have lined up for modernization, that is truly for credible. We will be able to reach that target of credible defense. But as I said, modernization is dependent on budget, especially now that we're going transitioning to external defense, and the Air Force and the Navy are big ticket are acquiring big ticket items like ships and multi-role fighters, and that requires a lot of money.
When you say credible defense, General Faustino, you talk about domination, right?
Right.
And in very simple words, is it, para hindi tayo kakayan-kayanin? So we are respected?
Yes, that's right. In as much as we wanted to settle things peacefully, kasi yun naman ang ating national interest dictates us na we be diplomatic and we settle things peacefully. And what we wanted really is a rules-based international order in these contested areas in the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea. Ang sa atin lang naman is we have a credible defense na sabi nga sa pambansang awit natin
Never shall.
Sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil.
Never
So,
shall invaders trample our sacred shores.
Sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil. So we have to do that.
Catch the premiere of that CNN Philippines special presentation, The Generals, tomorrow, Saturday, 7 p.m. Replays on Sunday, 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Still ahead on Newsnight, meet a dog in Cavite who proves Aspins are just as lovable and intelligent as other breeds. And pop star Ariana Grande brushes up on her acting skills for a new movie. More about her latest project after the break.
Bawat patak, may sarap, may lakas, sulit. Red Horse Beer.
Love is all about time. Di minamadali ang pagpapasarap. Like the love in every Pure Foods ready to eat. Slow cooked and ready in 8 minutes. Para may time ka sa mga mahal mo. Because love takes time.
For my babies, only vet-approved Nutri-Chunks puppies. The only one with active boost and prebiotics na Pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow strong and healthy. Happiness! Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks puppies.
In everything you do, make sure you choose what's true.
We always follow our hearts, so true adventures come our paths. Dreams and aspirations, giving spark to all our passions. Stay true and you'll know what to do. The bonds that are true. We choose what's true. We choose GSM Blue. Choose what's true. 'Cause on the line GSM Blue. Choose what's true. Choose what's true. Dahil ito ang GSM Blue.
I understand that sometimes you just wish that you can punch and kick your stress away, right? We are doing an energy-packed mix of martial arts moves that will get you lean, fast, and strong. Get in the zone and let's enjoy this no-equipment cardio boxing workout. Follow the beat. You feel like dancing? Go ahead. Rise up strong, reminding you to stay home and stay fit.
Watching Newsnight, I'm Pia Ontiveros. Topping Twitter trends, SB19's latest single made an impressive debut on a Billboard chart, but it climbs to even greater heights on Billboard's Hot Trending Songs list. Hit track Bazinga went up 9 places, ranking 3rd today. SB19 is the first Filipino group to make it to the list, which recaps the most talked about songs on Twitter globally. The track surpassed Blackpink member Lisa's record-breaking solo single and BTS's collaboration with Coldplay, My Universe. Rihanna is giving fans another way to listen to her songs, and a record player would come in handy called Reissue. The new release is a set of limited edition vinyls for all 8 of her albums. With hit songs like Umbrella and Work, these feature the Grammy-winning singer's tracks all the way back to 2005 to 2016. Vinyl and exclusive merch sets are up for pre-order on her website. Meanwhile, another musician is getting back into acting. Chart-topping singer Ariana Grande made her beginnings on Broadway. Now she's set to star in the film adaptation of one of its hit musicals. The Grammy winner was cast as Glinda in the movie Wicked. She worked alongside Cynthia Erivo, who will play Elphaba. Grande took to Instagram to express her gratitude for the role. She also posted Erivo's message that says, "The part was made for Grande." Back here at home, a furry family that prays together stays together. Watch how these faithful Aspens win hearts as they pause to say grace right before they dig into their meals. More from Pauline Versosa.
No matter how tasty his dinner looks, this dog never forgets to pray before eating. Meet Barako, a well-trained 3-year-old Aspen or mongrel from Imus, Cavite, who has captured the hearts of many with his bag of tricks. A certified dog lover, Fernando Bote Jr. has been training Barako and other pets with his own technique as early as 4 months. He says the secret to teaching is treating them like people.
Una po, laro-laro lang muna yung kanila. Yan, parang ganito lang. Laro-laro lang muna sila. Tapos, pagdating ng tamang edad nila, siguro mga 6 months pataas, yan, tsaka na po kami nagsaseryosang magturo sa kanila.
With no kids, Fernando and his wife have learned to love their pets like their own children. They share the same food, eat 3 to 4 meals a day, and even sleep next to each other at night.
Bilang sa kanila nakatuon yung nakakapag-besin, yung sumusunod sila sa mga inuutos, o kaya sa mga talagang parang tao na rin namin trato. Kaya yun po, sa simpleng pamamaraan po, nakakapagbigay po sila doon ng kasiyahan po para sa amin.
Because of the pandemic, Fernando lost his job as a construction worker, which affected their family. Despite their situation, he saw it as an opportunity to spend more time teaching Barako and his siblings some new tricks. Through their growing Facebook and YouTube pages with over 5,000 followers, Barako's family hopes to inspire more people that Aspens can be smart and lovable companions too.
Malaking bagay na rin po yan para sa amin, para mas tumaas pa po ng konti yung confidence ko sa sarili ko. Papakitaan lang po natin sila ng tamang pagmamahal, tamang pag-aalaga. Susuklayan naman po nila tayo ng magandang bagay din. Tulad po ng ginagawa nila ngayon, siguro po yun na po yung mapapayo ko sa kanila na mahalin na po talaga mahalin po natin yung lahi nilang Aspen.
With the support of many, the Barako family hopes they can continue to share their unique, happy, and simple life with others. Pauline Versosa, CNN Philippines.
As restrictions ease in NCR under Alert Level 2, let's keep COVID-19 away by following health protocols. Don't forget to wear your mask and face shield. Get your COVID-19 shots. Keep your windows open if possible. Maintain social distancing and keep washing your hands. Remember, vaccination, ventilation, and vigilance. It is 50 days before Christmas, and that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Kini ang simbiyanan sa RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS 1080 ang inyong Radio Ronda.
This pandemic has turned our lives upside down, and children are not spared. Between online learning and canceled playdates, the routines are anything but routine. Staying at home may keep them away from COVID-19, but that doesn't mean it's totally risk-free. There are also instances in which children can face some health risks. especially when they're unsupervised. Children are most especially vulnerable to airway obstructions. Anything from coins, small toys, food particles, and other small items at home may cause this. And the result is breathing or airway compromise, choking, and the worst case, of course, is accidental death. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We're here to build a healthier future for you. Anything that compromises the airway can be life-threatening emergencies that may need immediate medical attention. And knowing how to prevent this can spell the difference between life and death. To help us with today's discussion, let's welcome our guests who are both pediatric ENT specialists. Joining us is Dr. Adonis Jurado. He's the president of the Philippine Academy of Pediatric Otolaryngology. Also with us is Dr. Lyra Veloro. She is the head of the Pediatric Otolaryngology section at the Medical City. Airways or pathways where air flows into your lungs are a lot different or smaller in children, making them more vulnerable to obstruction. So anything that can get caught in there could be a potential problem. And knowing and understanding how the body works can help you recognize, prevent, and even respond to a choking emergency. Dr. Jurado, I'd like to start. Let's take a quick anatomy lesson kung bakit ang mga bata ang more vulnerable to airway obstructions as opposed to adults. Siyempre, we know that the children are physically smaller, but let's talk about where these obstructions can happen in a child.
More often than not, because these are food particles. And the most common food that causes obstruction actually are peanuts, because the child don't have second molars and therefore they have poor grinding abilities. So the tendency is for the nuts to be swallowed whole or aspirated whole. And this can obstruct either the left main bronchus or the right main bronchus. Rarely does it obstruct the trachea.
But it can also obstruct the passageway of food. Does that happen often as well, wherein there's an obstruction in the esophagus?
Usually, the most common are coins, especially if there are inadequate supervision. People sometimes leave small things, small objects within the reach of the baby.
Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Lyra, what are some of the most common objects at home that our viewers should know about that kids usually like to put in their mouth that can cause them to choke?
There are objects that commonly causes choking in children that are present at home are mainly food items. But there are also non-food items that are present in our household that can pose a choking risk to children. And these include the batteries, the small batteries, small toy parts. These are items in the household that should be kept away from children because it poses a high risk of choking-related injuries.
Batteries that are disc in shape, the small batteries that may be found in mini laser pointers or maybe watches. Could you explain why there's a higher risk for this type of object that when it gets lodged to maybe the nose or maybe the mouth, that it could cause further damage that may be unknown to the caregiver or to the parent?
Batteries actually when ingested or aspirated is more hazardous because they contain chemicals inside that could seep out and damage the tissues surrounding the tissues where it is lodged and causing more damage than what is normally seen in objects that do not have these chemicals.
Dr. Lyra, ano ba usually yung mga dapat bigyan pansin ng mga parents or caregivers sa mga bata when it comes to the food? What type of size of food is best? What is the consistency of the food?
There are types of food that should be given children that should be appropriate for their age. For example, you should avoid giving children less than 3 years old certain foods, for example, under the vegetable or fruit category. You avoid giving them dried fruits, raisins, pieces of carrots, peas. because they have incomplete dentition. Their molars have not yet developed, and they could not grind their food well. So the danger of aspirating it whole is there.
Now, Dr. Jurado, speaking of food, when it comes to the studies kung kailan nag-choke ang isang child or pag may nag-aspirate, it's during kapag sila ay kumakain at naglalaro or gumagalaw at the same time. Could you talk more about this?
Based on our experience is we have a lot of what we call unsupervised feeding. Pinapabayaan mo lang yung bata, or sometimes older children feeds the younger child with whatever objects.
Dr. Jurado, let's discuss some of the symptoms. Ano ba yung nakikita sa isang bata kapag siya ay may airway compromise or nag-choke?
Sudden dyspnea is in 50% of cases. And then the second most common is coughing. The third most common is nangingitim, cyanosis. And the fourth most common is choking while feeding.
What is the most important tool that a doctor can have, Dr. Lyra, when it comes to assessing the cause of any obstruction? Is it mainly the imaging modalities at hand, or is it the information of the caregiver or the parent?
So when the child with suspected airway foreign body is brought to the emergency department, usually the child is immediately assessed by an experienced doctor. So it's really a combination of good history taking, complete physical examination with the aid of imaging, and also the recognizing or determining the need for a bronchoscopic procedure already.
Now, when we return, we'll talk more about why children are the most at risk for airway obstruction. We're your connection to healthcare. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
Protektahi ang imong mga mata batok sa delikado ug makadaot nga ultraviolet nga silaw sa adlaw ug uban pa. Pinaagi sa pagsulob og eksakto nga prescription sa antiyohos o antipara. Likay ang mga simptomas sama sa hanap nga pananaw sa layo o duol nga basahon, sakit sa ulo ug uban pa nga makaapekto sa atong kahimsog nga ang hinungdan depekto sa atong mga mata. Alang sa kumpleto nga primary eye care, contact lenses, fashion eyewear, computer eyeglasses, sunglasses, accessories ug uban pa, adto kita sa AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic nagpahinumdum kanato nga ang kahimsog sa atong mga mata usa ka prioridad nga angay ipa-check up kausa matag tuig aron pagsiguro nga luwas kita sa piligrong mga sakit. Pinaagi sa lisensyado og qualified optometrists nga maoy mo prescribe sa eksaktong kagamitan ug kung primary eye care ang paghisgutan. Duaw lang silang buhatan sa 3636 sa Nicolas Street, Surigao City ug adunay ilang extension office sa Aurelianida Street, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayaw kalimti higala, AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic doon na branch dito sa lungsod sa Dapa sa may Lupis Haina Street, Poblasyon Dapa, Surigao del Norte. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic dinhi sa syudad ng Surigao no transfer na sa bag-ong location sa Nicolas Street Ragyahapon, tapad sa Garcia Hotel at bang sa Unicity. Ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated na sa ilang bagong location sa Dalan, Burgos ning atong syudad. Mahimo niyong tawagan sa telephone number 231-7478 or 826-3663. Mga produkto nga inyong mapalit, genuine, makita power tools sama sa planer, drill, grinder, Triton paints, construction supplies, angle bars, flat bars, GI pipes, automotive spare parts, Firefly electrical devices sama sa switches, bulbs ug outlets. Adto ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated sa ilang bagong pwesto sa Dalan, Burgos ning syudad. Makahangyo ka o makabarato pagyod diha sa Riverside Parts Master Incorporated.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Small children from ages 0 to 10 are naturally curious and explore their environment by placing objects in their mouths, their ears, their noses. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Dr. Lyra, what are some of the factors involved here aside from unsupervised children? What are some of the factors that increase the likelihood of a child having a choking episode or airway compromise?
So it's very different in children because anatomically, the airway is already small and narrow. So if you add to it an obstructive condition, whether inflammation or a foreign object, then the risk is higher for children.
Dr. Jurado, from breathing difficulty to choking, how much time do we really have to make sure this obstruction is out of the way?
Whether it's a complete obstruction or partial obstruction. But we're talking about partial obstruction. It could last a few hours or a few days and even years.
What would be the best first aid for a child who they assess is indeed choking or has their airway blocked?
What we call the Heimlich maneuver or the chest tap maneuver in younger children. Or the Heimlich maneuver is the abdominal thrust, wherein you put your two hands in the abdomen of the child and push up. Whereas the chest tap usually is used in babies, younger children, or babies, wherein you put the child head down and then put the tap on the back of the baby. In younger children, 1 year old below, or probably 2 years old, you can do that depending on the size of the child. So normally the Heimlich maneuver is done in the older children.
Mm-hmm. But there are some children who may be sleeping who snore. Maybe the parent or the guardian will be able to hear this. Would this be a cause for concern? Would they think that this would be a blockage? How would they be able to assess if the obstruction is something of an emergency or something that is physiologic with a child?
To actually determine if the noisy breathing is an urgent condition or not. So my advice would be, in children with noisy breathing, they should bring that child to the doctor for assessment, because that's the only way they could be reassured that if it is a non-life-threatening condition, then they can be reassured as long as the patient is already seen by the doctor.
When it comes to foreign body sa ear, mahilig din ng bata maglagay ng mga bagay-bagay sa loob ng tenga nila. Are there certain symptoms that a parent or guardian will be able to pick up on, thinking that there is a foreign body in the child's ear?
If the foreign body does not react much with the surrounding tissue, sometimes it stays there for a long time, ranging from days to several months. If the foreign body is organic and it decays or it absorbs water, then it can produce a foul smell or it can produce a discharge. Then the foreign body will be able to manifest itself. But in the nose, it's easier to detect because the mucosa of the nose is not naturally moist. So if there's a foreign body there, within days you will be able to smell it, and you will be able to see unilateral discharge from one of the nasal cavities. There will be discharge in one of the nasal cavities, and the smell is really very foul. So those are the signs that would tell you that there's a foreign body either inside the nose or inside the ear.
Now, when we return, we'll talk about what to do when your child's airway becomes blocked or obstructed by a foreign object. Your health is our mission. This is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
Maayong balita sa tanan sa atong panginahanglan sa panimalay, mga gamit, ingon man mga dekorasyon, pwede na natong mapalit diha sa Wellington Bazaar. Anausab sa Wellington Bazaar ang mga bestidahon, karsunison, plain t-shirt, plastic chair, floor mat, mantel, banig, folding bed, habol, mosketero, trapal, lideret, basketball, stuffed toys ug mga dulaan sa bata. Ang Wellington Bazaar ana magalagad kanato sa Dalan Kaimo ning Dakbayan sa Surigao. Wellington Bazaar gikan sa mga kawani og tigdumala sa Wellington Bazaar. Mayong adlaw alang kaninyo. Wellington Bazaar, sukion ta sa kanunay.
Ay, kasakit yun sa ako ang mga mata. Uy, labad pagyud kay ako ang ulo. Murag kog malipong ba? Unya, murag limtanon pagyud ko. Unsaon man ni, uy.
Naa na gyud kay problema, miss. Ha? Tanawa gud nagsakay ka sa tricycle, wala kay suot bra. Para masolba na imo problema. Ha, pag ino man ni Lutein Plus.
Unsa? Lutein Plus? Asa man na nimo gikan?
Ako man ninadunggan sa radyo, miss. Mao ang kapalit ko naan pagpagandam ba.
Sige, salamat kaayo ha. Magpalit dayon ko og Lutein Plus.
RPN Radio Philippines Network Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao Member Kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Watch out for any foul-smelling nasal or ear discharge, noisy breathing, coughing, or wheezing. These things can be indicators that the airways have been obstructed. Now, children, of course, are most vulnerable. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where your care always comes first. Dr. Jurado, aside from the Heimlich maneuver and back blows, what procedures are best done when the child is being treated?
At home, those are the only maneuvers that I know that can be performed by the caregiver or the parents. But the most important is that they should seek immediate treatment when those symptoms appear.
Okay, now Dr. Jurado, let's talk about an emergency procedure that could most likely save the life of a child if the airway compromise is definitely complete, and that is an emergency cricothyrotomy. Could you discuss about this and how this could potentially save the life of a child?
You put both hands on the abdomen and then your arms around the abdomen, and then you thrust. They call it the abdominal thrust. The other one is the chest tap or the back tap that you tap on the back. Those are the only two maneuvers that probably could be done by the people at home.
Dr. Lyra, what should we do or not do? Let's start with the don'ts muna. What shouldn't the parent or guardian do that may aggravate or make the problem even worse?
The adults who are present or the caregivers' initial reaction is to attempt to remove the foreign body by blind finger sweeping. Unfortunately, this maneuver can cause trauma and can cause bleeding, and may push the foreign body further down into the airway and potentially completely obstruct the airway. So blind finger sweeping should not be done in infants and children with foreign body obstruction. I would suggest that child care providers like teachers or parents should take classes on resuscitation, age-appropriate choking first aid maneuvers in order to be able to execute the needed intervention safely and correctly. What they should do in cases of foreign body aspiration is to bring the child immediately to the hospital.
Parents or guardians may want to remove that foreign object there. It may be impacted cerumen, earwax. What should be the proper way to clean a child's ear? Or should the parent or guardian even do so?
Actually, the ear has a self-cleaning mechanism. Normally, the wax comes out on its own eventually. Only in children, since the canal is very small, it's still very small, the buildup of wax inside the ears is faster than it coming out. So in children maybe below 5 years old, there should be regular cleaning by the ENT. I do not advise them to attempt to clean inside the canal themselves because they might traumatize the ear canal and make things much worse.
Now, Dr. Jurado, when it comes to obstructions in the airway or the esophagus, are there certain symptoms that may prompt the parent or guardian that one area is probably blocked as opposed to the other?
Normally, you would have difficulty in feeding the child, and the most common symptom is vomiting, whatever food intake they have, because it could not pass through to the stomach. And normally, the blockage of the esophagus is usually in the upper esophagus.
Now, Dr. Jurado, kapag natinik ang isang bata, kumain ng isda na may tinik, na may fishbone, what is the proper way, what is the proper thing for the parent or the guardian to do?
Normally, I think you should be feeding the child with a fillet, or the chicken probably should be devoid of bone in young children.
You would advise seeing a doctor immediately and not try and dislodge any fish bone or chicken bone with swallowing bananas, drinking lots of water. Proceed right away to the emergency department.
Tendency is probably kung nakatusok na siya, baka lalo pang mabaon. So, I think it's better to seek professional help rather than do those things.
Okay, so you heard it from the experts. To our viewers, do not try and dislodge that fish bone or chicken bone by eating more food, for that matter. Thank you, pediatric ENT specialists Dr. Adonis Jurado and Dr. Lyra Veloro, for sharing your expertise with us. It was really good speaking to you both. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines.
RPN Radio Philippines.